Welcome to the Sunday Night Chat. I'm Mike. For those of you that don't know, I had a hot shower. That was nice. We had like 4 or 5 days this month, or in the last 3 weeks or so, with no hot water or lukewarm. I had a couple cold showers. Some veteran guy I know, he's trying to tell me I need to use a teapot and heat up water. No. I got a big old giant, like probably holds 2 gallons of liquid. I used to cook before I was doing a stew every week, I used to do this 2 chicken soup. That was kind of like a chicken stew is really what it was. And I used to cook it in that thing for years. At any rate, just heat that up. Heat the water to the temperature you want. Here's a field shower tip for you. If you don't have hot water at your pad, but you have running water, and you got a way to heat it, right? I got a gas stove in here. Get yourself a big pot, big pot. A couple gallons is nice. And heat that up to the temperature you want. Pretty hot, pretty warm. You can tolerate. Get in the shower, right? Have it opposite. Have the spigot over here. Have the pot over here. Stand between them. Take the water. Get your hair all wet. Take some shampoo. Wash your hair, right? Then kneel down under the spigot. Use the cold water to rinse your hair out and get that all clean. That's the first step. Now you're going to do your body and everything with the soap, with the hot water again. And you can take some of that hot water now and get it over your head, rinse it out even better, warm your head up. You just use some cold water there. Then take your washcloth and take your soap. Don't put the soap in the hot water. Just take the washcloth, dip it in there real good. Don't wring it out. Keep it real drenched. Lather up that washcloth and scrub your whole body with that. Wring that out, clean it out underneath the spigot. Wring it out till there's no more soap in it. Dunk it in that hot water and wash that all off. Wring it out, wash it out again, dip it back in the hot water, and do all that till you scrub all the soapiness off your body. Now you're super clean. Now you can take the hot water, throw it over, take the whole pot, dump it over your body, you're done. Very simple. It's just, you're paying rent for a place that you're living in. You would think the friggin' hot water would be working. So, there's been no work on the ADU units, auxiliary dwelling units they call it. It's this thing that they do out here. They probably do it everywhere across the country. In the parking lot behind me here, they tore up all the concrete and they dug out for footings and everything. And they're building a parking structure under a building. They're going to build a structure. It's going to be 2 units, elevated, and you'll still have parking underneath of it. And they have not been here in at least 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks now. No work going on. I suspect that they're just waiting on permits. That's what I think is going on. So we're not getting any updates on that. Meanwhile, they put a hot water heater up out here that it's outside. And a couple things that happened. Like, so when they were working, we had problems where they were blowing the fuse for that thing. Apparently, the wind was blowing out the pilot light. Then apparently they told us that there's some circuit in there that wasn't working, so they had to replace it with another one. It's been a fiasco. And it's aggravating for a guy like me because I've been building stuff forever. When I got out of the service in 87, I started working with a company, and we were building these condos. The town stopped it, and the guy who owned the company bought some property, and we built custom homes, right? And we did it all. We had a backhoe, Caterpillar backhoe. We had a forklift, we had a Caterpillar backhoe. We also had the Caterpillar with the big 4 wheels, the big giant one that could do everything. I mean, it was like a giant forklift basically. And then we also had a little Bobcat thing, and so I used to operate all that stuff. But we would dig our own footings, build the forms, pour the concrete for the footings, put all the rebar in first, obviously, mix the cement. I mixed all the cement. We had guys doing the block work, did it all from the ground up. And after that, I kept moving on, and I did a lot of other new home construction and additions, all kinds of stuff. I worked on commercial stuff. I worked on residential stuff. This is the 1980s. And a couple observations, okay? Back then, we could get that structure done in 4 months, 6 months at the most. Everything we built was usually 3 to 4 months, start to finish. Guys showing up every single day and working. Now, it's going to sound like it's a racial thing. I'm not making it a racial thing. I'm just telling you from my experience. I'm not saying, I don't know why this is the way it is. Back then, the only guys on the job sites in New Jersey where I was at were white guys. That was it. I didn't work with any black guys. I didn't work with any Puerto Rican guys. There weren't any Mexican guys at the time. It was just white dudes. And in the summertime, we had guys come in that were there in the summer. We hired them just for summer helpers. So that did carpentry. We taught them a lot, and they helped. And back then, you were making like $4.75 an hour. An hour. $8 an hour was good money. $10 an hour was big money. I started off at $4.75 an hour. And we were knocking this stuff out. High quality. The shit I built back then is still standing there. Forgot to look at the watch. And all I'm saying is I don't see any white guys on the jobs anymore, especially out here. And everything's taken 3-4 times as long. And it's not getting done well either. Like, you got to go back and fix shit. So I don't know what the hell's going on. But for me, it's hard to see. It's just hard to see. And I get it. It's a city. They got to wait on the permits probably. Okay, fine. But, you know, they're making it harder for the rest of us who live here. And when you don't see progress, it's easy to get perturbed. And so you're not seeing any progress. And then I go out all day and I work for a living. I come home dirty and grimy. And I get home and I want to take a hot shower. And then there's no hot water. Yeah. Not happy about that. All right. So this past week, I don't know. I didn't write any notes down this week. It's just a lot of crazy stuff going on, but I was really just in my own head all week. I was watching movies and just trying to avoid all that stuff. I'm a little perturbed in a way, and I'm not mad at anybody, but been trying to get this Palooka Watch Channel logo done. And there's this real nice guy I've been talking to. He sounds so young. He's pretty young. He's only 30. He's down in Mexico. And I sent him this, and he kept, every time he sends me a version of it, it's not what I want. We keep tweaking it. And I don't understand, because it has a look like it's hand-drawn, but he's doing it in the computer. And the way he's doing it is not the way I would think it would get done. We keep going back and forth, and he sent me a thing today, and I'm just like, I'm not stoked with it. He finally did my fedora. I finally had to outline the fedora myself. This was just a rough sketch. This is the idea of the layout of what I wanted. I thought I could give that to somebody who's like a computer wizard, and they could just be like pop, 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 and build it in stages, like do the fedora, do the watch, put one on top of the other, do the dial of the watch, all of that. And it's just not happening in a time frame that I'm comfortable with. So I think what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to draw it myself. I'm going to do it exactly perfect the way I want. The only way to get it done right is to do it yourself. That's your lesson of the day today. And that's just what I'm going to have to do. And I'm going to have to tell him that. And he's been putting work into it. He's just not getting it the way I want it. It's hard to communicate with him. So that's kind of a bummer for him in a way, and me, I suppose. But I'm just going to do that. That's what's going to happen. And I'll get it done sooner than later. But that's been a frustrating thing. I guess that's what this whole week is a little frustrating. I'm very close to starting the finish on my project. It's funny, I did a how I did it video. Was a walnut island top for a kitchen. It cost $1,000 to ship it back east to New Jersey. It was for somebody in New Jersey. And I did it in like 9 years ago in 2016. Congestion there. And so I had forgotten about that. But, you know, that project cost almost as much as what I'm charging for this thing. I'm just not smart sometimes. So I got that going on, but I'm close. I'm close to starting to finish. I got to put the drawer together in this little box cabinet. I had to mill all this wood and glue some stuff together, like making this little silly thing with two shelves in it. I can't believe the amount of work it is. Anyhow, I'll get that put together tomorrow. Then I'm on sanding and finishing all this week. So we'll see how long that takes, weather permitting, and all of that good stuff. I may have to get in the van and drive to Pahrump, of all places, Nevada. I think it's one of the closest places I could get to if they have a Lowe's there, because I want to get the same finish that I already started with. I was going to do something else, but I don't like the idea of blending two different products. They're similar, but I don't want to take the chance. I'd rather go with what I know. So I might have to do that this week, like midweek or something. Drive out there, spend a night, come right back, and then get right back to work. So that's what's going on with that. A lot of other stuff going on. Like I'm blown away with the corruption in these cities in this country, and I know that the left paints the president as this meanie and all this stuff, but there's so many things they've been lying about with him that by now you should know. It's been all these lies. But what the hell's been going? What happened under the Biden administration with this whole bringing all these people into this country, and before that? These third world people who come in and they take over, and especially the Islam thing. I mean, we got no-go zones in this city, like in this country rather, in little towns and little cities, and mosques and everything else. That's not assimilation. That's an invasion. And this whole thing with the Somalis in Michigan, this Tim Waltz character, they say upwards of $6.5 billion in they stole through these programs. It's insane, man. It's insane. And think about that. 6.5 billion. Think about Doge and the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that they found there that was stolen. This is tax dollars, right? So I did a little video this week. It was a short. That was the thing, was the spraying. I did a lot of that. That's what pissed me off the most. But then I talked about this thing, and I am far from a socialist, right? I don't believe in that. But I think that a country like ours that takes in so much money from tax dollars, and by the way, that money is not money that's coming from income tax necessarily, right? We're overtaxed on everything. Everything you buy is taxed. All the food you buy is taxed. The gas you put on your car is taxed. Everything you buy has a tax on it. And that's where the money's coming from. It's a consumption tax for the most part that funds this country. Like something like half the population doesn't have to pay an income tax, so they don't make enough money. Their level of claim is such they don't have to pay anything. So you just think about the billions of dollars, maybe $1 trillion every year that's stolen. It goes to things that never gets to the programs, right? 10% of it. The rest of it gets stolen. And now we're finding out these people are stealing it and sending it to other countries to fund terrorism and everything else. So with that in mind, you could take, I don't know, a couple bill and just put that in the hospitals and nobody would have to pay for any medical treatment. Some of you go, that's socialism. No, I'm not suggesting taxing us anymore. I'm saying at the current level we're already at, we can fund that. And I really think there didn't used to be an income tax, man. 100 years ago, there was no income tax. There were still roads and electricity and everything else. We could do away with the income tax 100%. We can revamp the tax system if we wanted to. They could do a fair tax. They could do the consumption tax thing and just one flat rate across the board. It would fund everything. And the math's been done on it. If you don't know this, research it. It's true. So we can have a system where it's capitalism reigns, freedom, create your businesses and everything else, be cool with regulations and restrictions and whatnot. Let's apply some common sense. And we could have it where people don't need insurance. They can at least go to the hospital and get surgeries or get treated for stuff. I think, and with the RFK thing, with health, with getting the poison out of the food and everything, that's a step in the right direction. Let's get the food healthier, right? Let's have no junk food commercials. Let's have no garbage food commercials or any food commercials at all after 6 p.m. at night. Right there, you're less tempted. There's all these weird little simple things you could do to make society healthier and still have people have freedom. And there could still be insurance companies. I mean, there's people that make money. You could have a tiered system, right? So that if you're under a certain income level, you go get treated. Nobody's going to turn you away or anything. It's going to be fine. And then for the people who can afford insurance and better quality or whatever, they can still do that. Nobody's saying you can't do that. But nobody's being forced to buy something or pay a certain tax to fund everybody else who's not working. So I don't see, I mean, to me, it seems like that could happen. You just need the right leadership in place who's willing to do that. The problem is that these insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies, we know that the drugs in this country cost way more than they cost in many other countries. And so I know that this president's working on that. And it's hard though, man, because of the greed and the way that it's been working in the past, because these super big industries, not all of them, but the pharmaceutical industries, all these drugs they're pumping, the vaccine stuff, all this stuff, it's horrible. And they are clearly involved in politics. They're greasing certain politicians so that, A, they don't get punished for killing people, right? And forcing people to have to do things and take certain pills or whatever so that these companies are guaranteed to make all this money. That's a problem. So that's got to all get sorted. But if it does get sorted, I think we could do some things for people that's going to be good for them. Get rid of the Department of Education. Let that go back to the states. Let the states run their thing. And that's a naturally competitive thing then. And then the states that perform better, and you could do this performance test every 3 years, boom, what states are working better? What's that state doing that the other states aren't doing? And then get them to talk. You could have a Department of Education that works that way, but separate from what it became, because it became this giant bureaucracy where all it was administrators. And then any crazy idea that came out of Washington or that was currently popular got thrown into the system and forced upon the school system to the point where you're not teaching kids common sense anymore. That's got to stop. But as far as like an organization that's studying the states to see which ones do better, which cities do better, and then implementing, or at least suggesting the implementation of those ideas in the areas that aren't doing as well, I think that's what you do. It's common sense. Make it competitive. Competition, in that respect, business type competition brings about, what's the word I'm looking for? When you challenge the technology, it's not really the right word, technology, but the better ideas are going to shine through, and you're going to go, oh, that does work better. It's been proven. Let's implement that. Hey, this idea you've been doing, like we've been doing for the last 40 years, not working. Kids are dumber than ever. Clearly, there's a problem here. Let's change it. So it's an interesting time to be alive. But when they show you and they break it down, I posted a couple things on Facebook in the last few days. This woman's pretty good. She gets all the receipts here with all the numbers from the organizations, where the money's going. This Christina Aguilar. It's not your typical. It's not Jones or Smith. It's a hard to pronounce name. It's Aguayo, Aguayo. If I can't say it, it's hard to tell you what the hell it is. It's a friggin' problem for me. But anyhow, it breaks it down. Shows you the organizations, what the money they took in, where it went, who sent the money where. It's crazy. But that's not the only place. By the way, I keep telling you, Forbes is good on YouTube. because there's no talking heads telling you what to think. It's just a camera live showing you whatever's going on. You hear exactly what the players are saying. You get to formulate your own opinion. Nobody's putting an idea in your head. You're seeing it. So I recommend you look at that. All right. What else is happening? This UFO thing is no joke, man. I've been talking about this for years. I'm going to put in the description below a link to a video that I did. Boy, it's probably been a couple of years now ago, but it was me showing the pictures from the picture folders that I have on my Facebook page. In the link of that video, the description box of that video, that I'm going to link in the description box below here, is links to my picture folders on my Facebook page, which are public, so anybody can see them and analyze them. You can see the pictures I took. And but it's just now it's very mainstream. Brett Baer did a piece on it on Fox the other day. I didn't watch Fox News. I saw it on YouTube. And Carlson was talking about it before he left there, and he's still on it. A lot of the big podcasts. The thing about it is if it's not something that you ever looked into, if you never read a Whitley Strieber book or any of them, any book on the UFO phenomenon, like there was one, Flying Saucers, by this Marine Corps colonel years ago that I have. It's a great book. And, he talked about how he had to deal with it in the military and how corrupt the media was. He was having a hard time getting the information out there. If you know about Project Blue Book and Hynek and how his job was to debunk it, but the more he went out to debunk things and the more of these experiences he had and the people he talked to and the witnesses and the evidence, he did a 180 and began believing in it, and then became one of the biggest advocates for it. So this goes on and on and on. It's not just in the USA. And then the more you get into it, now because of the internet, there are stories that are being told that are known stories from different countries all over the planet. And then when you get into ancient culture and the stories from back then, and now with all the ancient writings, it's all real, and it's the same story. It's been going on since the dawn of time. And if you don't know that, you don't know it. So it's easy for you to go, that's all nonsense. But if you don't know about the Sumerian texts and cuneiform writing and the Epic of Gilgamesh and all these things, there are books and writings that predate the Bible. There are some of you out there, because you're religious, you think the Bible's the oldest book there is. That is not true. That's not true by thousands of years. I mean, the Vedic texts out of India go back 5,000 to 7,000 years or more. There's plenty of old writings, and the Sumerians, that's the oldest text we're actually aware of. And those stories are talking about things that happened thousands of years prior to that. The King's List. There's so many things to know about. There are ancient megalithic structures all over the planet that we still don't understand, that the technology of the construction is such that later generations of people that came by thousands of years later built atop of that, and that technology is nowhere near as good as the lower technology. So that means that there were civilizations on this planet that had higher technological knowledge that nobody knows about. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So it's all real, and they all say the same story. People came from the sky, came down, and now with the stuff that's out there, you learn all this other stuff it's a little spooky. It's hard for people to accept it and want to believe it, and that's fine. It's fine with me if this is not your thing and you think I'm ridiculous for giving this any credence whatsoever. The thing I don't like that you discover about it is it sounds like there's all these different beings from all these different planets, possibly different solar systems, and like there's this galactic federation thing going on. It's like Star Trek, And I think that we've been on this slow drip of disclosure. if you think about all of the sci-fi stuff that's been around since entertainment started, it's always been there. And if you even when you look at the Bible and you think about it in those terms, and you think about Ezekiel, the wheel within the wheel, with the eyes that are lights and everything else, or Jacob's ladder, right? The ladder that comes down out of the clouds and the angels are going up and down. And then you look at like what the Sumerian texts were saying. Also, AI's been looking at it. Now, somebody made a comment. I posted an AI thing that was looking at the Sumerian text, and she said, well, 50% of AI isn't true. Yeah, if it's out of the blue, okay. But we already have the Sumerian text. We already know what a lot of it says. All this is doing, all AI is doing now, is it's scanning all the information we have and all the ancient cuneiform texts from all the sources worldwide, calculating all that, and it's seeing things that it would take humans years or decades to go through and collate all these different shapes and marks to make sure they got everything accurate. AI can do that a lot quicker, and so it's taken the stories and streamlined them and made them more accurate. And the gist of it is that, yeah, they came here and they created us, and there was different reasons for it, and there's different types of people that they created for different purposes, and it was never one God. It was always gods, plural. And modern religion in the last couple thousand years is really a way for people, the ruling class, that's still running the world today, to control us with guilt and fear and all these other things. And the other crazy thing about that is that because of the different religions, more people have died in the name of religion than any other reason on the planet. So one religion has a problem with this religion, and then they murder each other. It's a friggin' problem. You got to wonder about that. My thought on that is that they do it on purpose. It's like mining of souls. It's like they want to have us kill one another because our souls are valuable. You get into that thought, and it's crazy. I don't like thinking about that, but that's what I think is probably going on to a large part. Yeah, it's wild. Anyhow, I think that it's fascinating, and I'm telling you, mark my words, there's something happening, and it's gonna be revealed in our lifetime, and I think pretty soon. And there's a new doc that came out that even Senator Rubio is in. I think it's called The Age of Disclosure. I haven't seen it yet. I don't really need to see it. When it's for free and it pops up on here, it might be. I haven't sought it out yet. I just watched a bunch of information on it so far. I'll watch it. I don't feel the need to look at it because I follow the subject pretty closely and have been for ever. So I'm pretty well versed in it. And I already have my belief system, So it's just about them letting the rest of us know. The thing is that there's constantly weird shit going on, and nobody cares. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think when these people, and also, okay, this is a thing. Right? This is where if I haven't gone off the rails enough for you, strap in, because here's one for you. When you see somebody before your eyes change completely, like Brett Favre playing for the Minnesota Vikings, right? What the fuck was that? That was when I stopped watching football. Like, this ain't right. You look at the situation with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I was never a huge fan of. I thought she was entertaining, but I thought she was a crazy bitch. Even though she was on, the Republican side, I'm not a Republican. I'm centrist. I'm center right, common sense kind of guy. She was a pit bull for the Republican Party there. And she was entertaining and she spoke her mind. I never liked her style. I didn't like a lot of the stuff that she had said. I didn't like, because I think you have to be careful with the cameras when you're in public office. It just smacks of narcissism and whatnot. Now, she was doing her job. That's what her constituents elected her to do. And she was doing a good job. But now she's going off completely like on the other side. And when you see that shift. I use that as an example of Are you sitting down? Invasion of the Body Snatchers, man. You got to watch the original, then watch the one, because I was like the 50s. Then you got to watch the one with Donald Sutherland from the 70s. The pod people. Because the idea there is, now in the movie, these seeds or whatever, and this gets into the panspermia idea, and that at any time there are things that are falling from the sky and hitting the planet and creating issues. You could kind of say, I mean, the panspermia idea is that all life was brought here from space, from other places. And the Earth has been bombarded with the building blocks of life for hundreds of millions of years, a billion years, whatever, however old the planet is. And that's how life started. In microbial form and whatnot. And then, plants and insects and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of an accepted theory. We know now that life lives in space. That's been a proven fact. I mean, they've got algae that grows on the outside of space station, right? So life lives out there, which is pretty wild, which means it's being brought here. And they've opened up meteorites and found the building blocks of life in the meteorites. So it's happening, which means that could be an explanation of why new species of plants are found, or insects, or animals. Think about that. If you think about it that way, that one day Godzilla could walk out of the ocean. You understand what I'm saying? That's a scary thought. But logically, it seems like it's plausible. So in the movie, it's these seeds that create these pods, and they were sent here by some other, supposedly some other, basically these things, these spores are traveling through the galaxies and whatnot, and they got into ours, and they came through and hit the Earth, and then these plants grew and these pods come out. And what happens is these little tentacles come out and they get on your body and they duplicate your DNA. There was something I saw this week in the news where they showed this little single cell amoeba type thing that does this, that touches other things and duplicates the DNA and becomes that. So this is invasion of the body snatchers. It's already here on the planet. This is crazy. But in the movie it does it, and it recreates a facsimile of the human, and then it becomes animated and then kills the original. And when enough of them do that, now they can kind of communicate in a way, possibly. It's never fully really explained. It's not like, it's somewhat telepathic, but they don't have any emotion and whatnot. And their ideas, it's kind of they're goofing on communism with that whole idea of, the collective and no emotion and everybody being the same and having the same ideas and the same thoughts and the same wants and desires and needs, and it's all taken care of. And that's what it becomes, just this monolithic way of living. And it does seem like there's people that are trying to do that here. And I see somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene do this change, and I'm like, fucking pod person, man. Fucking pod person is what's going on there. I see that with, imagine if that is a controlled thing and you came here and you wanted to take over, or what if I know this is crazy. I'm not saying I believe everything I'm saying. I'm just saying these are things that you read about and you're like, okay, you get these ideas in your head. They're saying that there are some types of these aliens that come from another world that they might look insectoid, but they can take on the appearance of a human, and you wouldn't know the difference if you were sitting next to him talking to him. Maybe there'd be little things. Well, imagine if you could do that. Who would you want to be if you were here? It ain't going to be the garbage man. It ain't going to be some working stiff poor guy. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to be rich and famous people. What if, in order for that to happen, you have to accept it? What if there was, I don't know, secret societies? What if we're these like cult-like groups of rich and famous people? What if to get into that group, they're like, oh yeah, come on over. We do these things here. We have all these orgies, we have sex with kids. We drink baby blood. you go through this little ceremony, and all of a sudden you could be taken over by one of these entities. Because if you do, now you're in the club and you get to live this life, but you're really being controlled by this other thing. I'm not saying that's what's happened. I'm saying that's what it seems like is happening. That's what it seems like. I've said this before. I've had incidents. Two of them are in my brain right now. One was Chris Rock and one was Matt Dillon. I was in New York City. I was working on a brownstone in the 90s, the late 90s. I'm on a stoop. I'm sitting there. I'm just watching the city walk by. It was in the Village. And Matt Dillon walked by. And as he walks by, I don't do anything. I'm just sitting there. I see him. As he walks by, all of a sudden his head snapped and he looked at me. He made eye contact with me directly, and he had a look on his face like he was scared shitless. Very strange. The same exact thing happened with Chris Rock. I was down here on Larchmont one morning, and he's walking by, and then bam, his head just snapped down and looked at me, and I just looked up at him, and he looked at me like he was scared shitless. It was very strange. I bring this up. I know this is so off the wall today. This is such a crazy thing. If you haven't been here long enough, if you don't remember the story, and I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm something special, because I don't know what this means. But going in line with this whole thing with the UFO thing, in 2008 I took these pictures that shows a UFO, right? And it changes pitch, it flies away, it comes back. At one point, another one comes up underneath it, and then that one takes off. It was during a lunar eclipse. I've got like 40 images. And I shared a bunch of them. This was MySpace days. Excuse me. And I was riding motorcycles, hanging out the Cretans, and they had a clubhouse. And we were all connected on MySpace. And this girl, Becca, reached out to me, and she said, there's this girlfriend of mine, Kimmy, that wants to meet you. So the next party, we had a party coming up that weekend at the clubhouse. And when I walked in, I noticed this woman I'd never seen, but very young, young Asian girl, pretty, at the end of the bar. And she was looking at me, she had a weird look on her face. And then I started talking to my friends, and I'm having fun, and people are handing me drinks and other things, and we're having a good old time. And then Becca comes up to me after I've been there about 10, 15 minutes. She goes, I want to introduce you to Kimmy. She takes me over. It happens to be this Asian girl I saw. We made eye contact when I first came in. I sit down next to her. We started talking. She talks to me for a few minutes, wanting to get to know me. And when she realized I was cool, she says to me, she says, look, ever since she could talk, she was revealing things that she was seeing to her parents that nobody else can see. And they believed her. They took her to the local church, all this stuff. She went through all these situations where the gist of it is she can see color around people and beings around people, see their auras and all this. And so ever since she's been in single digits, she's been traveling around the world with her parents, getting paid by a lot of wealthy people for her to reveal what she sees around them. It's a crazy story. And she says to me, she says, Mike, you have a golden aura and you have wings. Like she sees me standing there with wings on. And that's all she tells me. She doesn't tell me what that means, what I'm supposed to do about it. And to be honest with you, I was kind of like, she picked up on my energy. She's like, look, I can't date anybody. I can't do, like, because I was looking at her like, man, you are gorgeous. Like, okay, I got a golden aura and wings. Does that score any points with you? Let's go. I bring that up because the gist of it was, and some people will say this, that the UFOs will reveal themselves to certain types of people. So maybe that's what she was trying to explain to me. Also, if you don't know, and I know this is going to really freak people out, because a lot of you don't believe in anything, but I've had a Bigfoot experience. And I've got 2 videos on here that I will also link in the description box below. And I have 1 main one and then 2 that are very possible that happened before the main one. The main one was in September of 1992 up along the Appalachian Trail there at the Delaware Water Gap in northern New Jersey. an area that I went my whole life, hunting, fishing, camping with my dad. And so I know these things are real because I was only 4 feet away from this thing. And it was hunched over. I'm seeing it from its back, from the top of its ass to its shoulders. And this thing is made exactly like a human. The same muscular anatomy of a human being, just 3 times the size. Massive. I mean, from the top of its ass to its shoulders was over 4 feet. And it was so heavily muscled, exactly like a giant bodybuilder, like Schwarzenegger or somebody in his prime, but bigger. And because I'm like, from my waist to my top's like 27 inches or something. And so you figure somebody who's 6 feet or taller, 30 inches, 36 inches max. This thing was massive. And it had this long reddish brown hair, perfectly clean, no smell. And the hair was matted down perfect. So I could see the definition in the shoulders, the striations at the traps at the top, that triangle muscle at the base of the spine. Like a ripped to shreds bodybuilder on stage flexing. It was amazing. And if you want to know the rest of that story, please go to the links below and watch that video. I don't want to get into that right now. But people will say that that's a similar thing too. Now, here's where I get into like this fantasy thing and just like a thought I had. And I like to daydream when I'm working. The VA came through this week as well. I'm waiting to get paid, but they gave me more percentage. And they service connected these things, which is good. And my advocate's very happy because he says we can work that, have me go to more appointments, and he can get those numbers up. So I'm looking forward to that. And at some point, there's going to be like a back pay thing that comes in that'll be pretty big when we eventually get to the bigger thing. Because I'm not giving up on any of this. I mean, if you don't know, I found in my records like 4 or 5 months ago where when I got injured as a security force Marine and I went to the doc, keep in mind, I'd been injured in boot camp a few times. I got injured in infantry school. I get to training, and all we did was train combatives, everything else, breaching, all kinds of things as a security force Marine. So you're beating yourself up. I guess I was just one of those guys. I have plenty of friends that did everything I did and worse and don't suffer any issues whatsoever. They're so lucky. But in my records, which I never saw when I was in, I only just discovered it. One of these doctors recommended an MOS change, which means the command should have said, oh, okay, well, we should do that. What else can... Then they'd look at my ASVAB scores. They'd look at what I'm doing, how I was doing. I was a good Marine. I got busted, and that's the problem. I got busted, and they just started treating me like crap. And there was a lot of other stuff going on. Red cell was happening while I was there. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But if they had done what was recommended, and I would have gotten a different job in the Marine Corps, my entire life would be different right now. So now that I know that, I am going after them for all this stuff because I'm pissed. It's retribution. That's where I'm at, man. But it's all real. That's the thing. If I can give you any advice when it comes to the VA stuff, try to find somebody to help you. Look into that. There's people online. My guy is not going to help you. I've already been asked. Some of you guys send me these notes. Will my guy help you? He won't. My guy only takes recommendations from other dudes, and he pretty much works. I'm an anomaly. The only reason he took me on, I was not in the Marine Corps very long. I didn't do my 4 years. And the guy that recommended me to him retired out with over 20 years, was a tier 1 operator, combat vet. And that's mostly what he focuses on. So he has personal relationships with these people. And then if they recommend somebody, he knows, I don't know you. I can't recommend you, for one thing. Sorry. It's not going to happen. But with me, he didn't want to take me on right from the jump. He said, send me your medical records first. And that's what I did. I went to Kinko's, and I had my medical records because in 2007, 2008, I was going to go back in. It's a long story. I was going to do provisional reconstruction teams, which a lot of those guys, was like working with the CIA. It's a long story. My buddy Dave, if you're watching, Afterwards he's like, yeah, man, it was like pretty dangerous. We lost a lot of guys. Like, what are you trying to do? Get me killed, Dave? I love that guy. But it would have been so much fun to have been over there with him. And he knew my mindset. That's why he was trying to get me into it. That would have been fun. I trained for that. I got in really good shape. At any rate, yeah, that was such a bummer when that all fell apart. Let's shift gears here. I don't want to get into the past. Let's talk about the future. So there will be a little back pay with that. I'll have some money, and of course, I am very seriously considering that selling that house in Arizona, giving my sister a bunch of money, all that stuff. But I'm not in a rush. But I was sitting here thinking, if I had the coin, what would I do? And I forget the guy's name. I should have looked it up. Let me look this up real quick while you're here. Forgive me. Clifton's Cafeteria. Who owns Clifton's? I didn't spell it right. That's right. Hang on, bear with me. Andrew Marion. Okay, so I met Andrew. Look up Andrew Marion. It's Andrew, Meieran. This is a wealthy dude, man. And I had 3 or 4 meetings with him, one-on-one in his office. He gave me a full tour of that building, the basement, all the way up to the attic. I saw stuff written by Walt Disney in the rafters there. And he wanted me to build him a speakeasy bar in the basement. There was already kind of a bar set up there. It was a bunch of stuff stored down there. And he had put a redwood tree when you walk in. It's concrete, but it looks like a real redwood tree that goes all the way up. That place is so amazing. This is downtown LA. And my idea for the basement, I'm talking about it now. He didn't want me to talk about it, but this was a long time ago, so sorry, Andrew. But my idea was to have the roots come down. I wanted it to be the inside of a cave where Bigfoot lives. Was my idea. So the roots would come down. There was a round bar with a central table. I used to work in a round bar at the Jersey Shore. So you could walk around the center like an island that had glass shelves for the booze. And I wanted the roots to come down and have the glass shelves supported by these roots, which I'd all hand carve and do this bar thing. And then in all the walls would be like these nooks and crannies that are lit of all this cool stuff going back hundreds of years, like a flintlock pistol and bows and arrows and shit, stuff that Bigfoot would have found or taken, right, from humans over the years, like camping gear and old cameras and stuff, because all these disappearing people have disappeared over the years. It'd be kind of like a spooky, cool thing where it's Bigfoot's lair, which could have been the name of the bar down there. This is still a genius idea, by the way. I'm giving away gold here. Just remember, you heard it here first. If you ever see this somewhere in the future, this was a Mike Z design idea here. Bigfoot's lair. And that's because it's a great way to display cool shit. Like, I've got enough crap in this apartment, I could have decorated Bigfoot's lair myself. But I can see it in my brain where the walls are like the walls of a cave, and there's roots coming out of them, and there's like these niches, and each niche could be lit with this cool stuff like stacked up there, because then you could collect all this cool stuff. What else do you do with cool shit? You just look at it anyhow. Why not have it on display? Why not have it on display in a bar atmosphere? That's friggin' cool. So I was selling him on this idea, and he wanted to do it, but he had a lot on his plate. And if you look up Andrew and you learn about his life, he's a pretty amazing guy. His parents had some money, and they helped him buy a house when he graduated college, which he refurbished himself and sold and made money, and then he kept doing that. And he got to the point where he created a production company, and I don't know him anymore, but I still got his number on my phone. And the reason I'm bringing this up is he was the wealthiest guy I ever knew that I bonded with. We could have became friends if he had the time. Every time I went there, I would have to wait in his office, and I was not happy. I would let him know that. This happened with that singer, Miley Cyrus. I went to her house. I was supposed to have an appointment with her to do some work for her, and I showed up, and she had me waiting for like an hour while she was boning some dude in her bedroom. And I got pissed. I fucking left, man. My time is as valuable as your time. If you don't show me respect, I'm not showing you any respect. And so this guy, I liked him enough where I put up with it because he always apologized. He'd come out of his office, I'd be sitting there for 15 or 20 minutes like, dude, I'm so sorry. I've been on the phone. Let's go. But then it was one-on-one. It was me and him with no interruptions from anybody else. And he took me all over that building. It was so cool. And because he was somebody that I kind of bonded with and he had the kind of money that he has, I hit him up a couple times on text. And the idea is, I feel like I know Bigfoot's real because I had my experience, and I know how to prove it's real without killing it. The problem with all the other things, because if this is not something you're into and you never looked into it and you're just going to, out of hand, poo-poo it, that's fine. I've seen it. It's real. There's tons of footage out there that's genuine. Watch Thinker Thunker. Start watching this stuff, listening to some of these stories. Look at the DNA evidence. It's a real thing. But these people, they go out there and they'll go out for a couple days and camp or something and they get some stuff. The way to do it is to go out there plan to be out there for 6 months, man. And so when I hit up Andrew, my idea was you get like a team. I'm going to do it differently. But at that time, my thought was, I also pitched this to a couple of producers. Nobody's biting. I'm just some dude. Look at me. It wouldn't even cost that much money. The hard part is you have to go out there with a minimum of 6 months, even a year, if it would take that long. I don't think it would take anywhere near that long to get what I'm about to describe to you. But you got to figure like, well, how do I pay my bills if I'm out in the woods for 6 months or a year? Like I need an infusion of cash so I could pay my rent for a year ahead of time, all the utilities and everything. Let that get now we have Starlink and everything. That didn't exist back then. So I could have the van out someplace with Starlink, and every night I could be watching movies while Bigfoot's out there throwing rocks at the van. You know, get a projector, put it out there. Bigfoot's going to come over and want to watch the movie. You know what I'm saying? Even he's going to go, that De Niro's a fucking asshole. High five him with Bigfoot. You know what I'm saying? You agree with me, right? He's a fucking jerk off. Look what he said here. Palling around with Bigfoot. But back then my thought was, you get a team of like 5 guys. Survivalist minded, guys that can hunt, live off the land. We get my buddy Ed, a tier 1 medic shooter guy. We need a medic out there. And for them to do that, they need money too, because they've got to be able to pay their bills while they're there and not at home. So it would have cost some money. What else do you do? There's an inexpensive way to do this, and there's a more expensive way to do it. This was the plan back then. One was the expensive way. You get there, as soon as you get there, you make a bunch of noise, you scare everything away. You're going to areas where you know that these things live, and there's got to be water and all these other things, because you're going to live off the land just like they do. You're competing for the same food sources as they do, which is going to piss them off, make them curious and come around. But you climb first, and you get cameras way up there, 20, 30 feet, aim down at the campsite, at the areas where you're going to fish and everything. Let's say you fish, you catch fish. You put a line and you put some fish that are like 12 feet in the air on a tree limb or something, then that's being shot with a camera. You get squirrels and whatnot on snares, you know. Maybe I would recommend having firearms to be safe, but if we're hunting, maybe we use bows or something. Because we're not because firearms are going to scare them away as far as the gunshots, but because, you know, you might get a deer or something. It would be a good idea to get some bigger game and live there. Those things are going to come through. They're going to walk through at night, the campsite. They're going to throw stuff. They're going to take the gifts. If you watch this stuff enough, you know what I'm talking about. It's all viable. But, you know, Andrew never bid on that. The more expensive way to do it, like I was saying, is some of those cameras could be tapped into somebody who's 5 miles away. If this was a production, if this was like a show where you had money involved behind it, you got people 24/7 monitoring cameras to see what's around for your own safety. Now, the cheaper way to do it with the same guys is we need the money for everybody to be able to cover their bills while they're out in the woods that long, but we don't have the production. We don't have the truck watching the cameras. We're just out there and it's up to us. Well, this is never going to happen. What I want to do now is just do it on my own, which is dangerous. If it's real, if you believe in it, it could be dangerous. But I think that's what I want to do. When I come into some coin, van will be dialed. I'll get that all set up good. And then I'll go to one of these hotspot areas, and I'm just going to drive up in there and stay gone for 6 months or so. That would be the plan. Cover all the bills here because I got that coin. Boom. And then that's it. You're not spending any money while you're out there. And I would have Starlink and everything. Maybe I can link all that stuff up with the YouTube. I can give real-time stuff. Imagine that. That would be wild. So I think that's the fantasy plan. Now, if there's anybody out there that's got a bunch of money and wants to invest in this right off the bat, because that's like the last resort. It's I watched Zodiac last night. I think it was from the 2000s, and Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, who I can't stand. I think that guy's a jackass. If he's in a movie now, I don't watch it at all. Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, and it's about the Zodiac killer. It's a good based on the book. And Jake Gyllenhaal plays this cartoon artist who wrote the book, and he becomes obsessed with it to the point where like it practically ruins his marriage. And he's just got to prove it. He's got to get to this point. And that's how I feel about this. Ever since seeing that thing and knowing it's real and listening to people make fun of it and everything else, and I know what I experienced, I feel like I'm on that mission. That's what I want to do. So I think about that a lot. I don't share it here all the time, but that is something that I would like to do. And if I could get the coin in, that's what I'm going to do. I've already made my mind up about it. And you could say, what a waste of time. You waste your time. You're crazy, whatever. Well, hey, look. I could have a 6-month adventure in the wilderness someplace. I think that's worth it at any age, a life experience, whether or not Sasquatch shows up. Who knows? Maybe I'll knock one up, you know? I just don't want to be killed by one. That's all. Because the way they kill you, it's just like, oh, here's your arms, pop, knock you out with it. You wake up, your arms are ripped off. They've eaten your dick. It's that would be fucking horrifying. I don't want that to happen. But hopefully I'll go to an area where there's nice ones, like Harry and the Hendersons or something. But I do. I want to do that. As crazy as that sounds. So, I mean, there's a bunch of people unsubscribing right now. But I want to try to make that happen. So, and imagine, let's just say you get that footage, man. There's no denying it. A lot of people think it's people in monkey suits. And I have to tell you, you got to look up Thinker Thunker and look up proportional DNA. Because what he does is he takes all the footage out there and he'll show you the monkey suit guys. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's just about drawing points of contact from the hip to the knee, from the knee to the ankle, from the pelvis to the base of the neck, from the shoulder to the elbow, from the elbow to the wrist. And human proportion is the same, whether it's Shaquille O'Neal or somebody who's 5 feet tall. The proportions are exactly the same between humans. Bigfoot proportional DNA is completely different. Their torso is shorter. Their arms and legs are basically the same length. Our legs are like a third longer than our arms. So once you see that, you can't unsee it, and it's like, oh, now I can tell. Plus just the mass. It's incredible. And I just know that you're going to get amazing footage out of that. And then who knows what the interactions are going to be like. So, and you could get dead too. It's a dangerous thing. You could die. But c'est la vie. No one gets out alive anyhow. And I don't believe that we die. You just go off to the next thing. So it's not like I'm afraid of it. It would be nice to do that with some other people if they're cool, if they know how to survive out there and don't freak out. But that's the plan, man. I think it's pretty wild. Anyhow, that's the Sunday night chat. Pretty crazy. And I I should reach out to Andrew. I don't think he'd remember me now. It's been a number of years. But he was cool. I can tell you he was cool. That's it. Have a good day. Be kind to one another. Check in throughout the week this week. I should be getting, once I start applying finish to these parts, it's going to look cool. I am so looking forward to getting this stuff out of the shop and getting it installed up there in Lake Arrowhead. It's probably going to take 2 to 3 days to install it. And when I'm done, I'm hoping I'll talk to Greg. Greg, you listening? I'm thinking if I could leave the tools at his pad there, I'm thinking about going up in the forest there in the van, Lake Arrowhead area, for 2 to 3 nights, maybe an extra night, I don't know, and then come back, get the tools, and come back to LA and jump onto the next project. So the next project's going to be with this guy, Fred, and he's down there in Chino Hills, and he's been sick all week. I'll talk to him soon because I'm going to go see him at some point this week to talk about the things he wants done, and then because I'm going to have to jump into that pretty quick. In between the 2 projects, too, I might go out to Colorado to see this gal pal of mine I've been talking to, so we'll see how that goes. Because I'm going to need a little bit of a break. I'm going to need a little bit of a break for a week or so before jumping back into another project. But that's what's happening. You still here? I know. It was off the rails, man. Be good to one another, you know? Don't make fun of people. If you have anything nice to say, shut the hell up. But be nice. I'll catch you in the next one.